For 150 years, the galaxy lived in peace. Trade ships traveled freely between stars. Huge cargo vessels carried food, technology, and rare minerals from one world to another. Merchant fleets crossed entire sectors without fear. Colonies grew quickly. New cities appeared on distant planets. Families moved across star systems to start new lives. Children grew up without hearing the sound of war. Pirates slowly disappeared. Smugglers vanished from trade routes. Dangerous regions that once terrified travelers became safe again. Most alien empires believed this peace existed because they were powerful. They believed their great fleets protected the galaxy. They believed their advanced weapons kept order. But that belief was wrong. The real reason for the galaxy's peace was hidden far away, deep inside human space. Far beyond the busy trade lanes and rich alien worlds, human fleets walked the dark edges of the galaxy. They guarded places where no one else wanted to go. Cold star systems, silent nebula clouds, empty regions where ancient signals drifted through space. These were the places where danger came from. And when danger appeared, it was always the humans who stopped it. Dark fleets sometimes came from the unknown regions beyond map space. No one knew who built them or where they came from. They attacked without warning. Human fleets destroyed them. Sometimes ancient machines drifted through the void between stars, old, silent, and extremely dangerous. Their weapons could destroy entire colonies. Human patrol ships hunted them down and erased them. Sometimes strange creatures hid inside giant nebula clouds. Massive living predators that fed on ships and stations. Human fleets tracked them, fought them, and pushed them back into the darkness. Again and again, humans fought these hidden wars, and the rest of the galaxy never even noticed. Humans never asked for rewards. They never demanded territory. They never told the galaxy what they were doing. They simply protected everyone. Because of this quiet protection, the galaxy grew comfortable, too comfortable. Years passed, then decades. Soon, many alien leaders began to forget what humans had done for them. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, powerful alien empires started asking dangerous questions. They looked at the growing human fleets with suspicion. They studied the massive human shipyards floating near distant stars. Some of those shipyards were so large they could build entire warships at the same time, bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Alien scientists also noticed something strange. Human weapons kept improving. Every year, their technology became stronger. Every year, their fleets became larger. Some alien leaders became afraid. Others became jealous. Rumors slowly spread through the council. Quiet whispers turned into loud accusations. Some leaders said humans were secretly preparing to control the galaxy. Others said humans were building fleets large enough to conquer every alien empire. Fear turned into anger, and anger slowly turned into a plan. The truth, however, was much simpler. Humans were not preparing to conquer anyone. They were preparing for something else, something terrible, something that human explorers had discovered far beyond the outer borders of the galaxy. But when human diplomats tried to warn the council, no one listened. Many alien leaders believed the warnings were just excuses. They believed humans were hiding their true intention. So the Galactic Council made a decision. A terrible decision. In secret, dozens of alien empires began building a massive alliance fleet. Shipyards worked day and night. Weapons factories produced thousands of new cannons. Fleet commanders trained for a war that had never been officially declared. Within a few years, the alliance fleet was ready. Thousands of warships from dozens of alien civilizations. One of the largest military forces the galaxy had ever seen. Their mission was simple: destroy human fleets, break human power, take control of human space. The Council called this operation the Peace Enforcement War. They believed they were protecting the galaxy from a future human empire. But history would remember this decision by another name: the greatest mistake in galactic history. Because the alien leaders believed something that was not true. They believed humans were only soldiers. They believed human fleets were built for normal wars. They believed they understood humanity. But they were wrong. For 150 years, humans had been doing something very important, something the galaxy had never noticed. For 150 years, humanity had been holding something back. And if humanity ever stopped protecting the galaxy, then the galaxy would finally understand why. But by the time they realized the truth, it would already be too late. Admiral Marcus Hale stood quietly inside the command chamber of Earth Defense Command. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow of hundreds of holographic screens. Each screen showed a different part of human space: trade routes, colonies, shipyards, and defense stations. For many years, these screens had been peaceful, but today they showed something very different. Red warning symbols were appearing everywhere. A young officer spoke with a tense voice. "Admiral, we have confirmed it." Hale slowly looked up. "Confirmed what?" The officer swallowed nervously. "The Alliance fleets are entering human territory." The main hologram changed. A large star map appeared in the center of the room. Thousands of red signals blinked across the outer border of human space. Warships. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands. Ships from many alien empires. Ships that once called humans allies. Another officer stepped forward. "Scanners confirm vessels from the Thalan Empire, the Kevari Union, the Seldari Collective, and at least 20 other civilizations." The room became silent. Every officer understood what this meant. This was not a mistake. This was an invasion. Admiral Hale slowly crossed his arms. "For 150 years, he said quietly, "we protected them." No one replied. Another alarm suddenly sounded across the command room. A sharp red message appeared across the main display. "Outer Defense Station Delta destroyed." Then another message appeared. "Colony World Arcus under attack." Another followed seconds later. "Human Patrol Fleet 7 lost." "Human Patrol Fleet 7 lost." The attacks had begun. The Alien Alliance was not waiting for negotiations. They were attacking immediately. Far across the galaxy, alien warships poured into human space like a massive storm. Defense stations exploded under heavy fire. Human patrol ships fought bravely, but they were heavily outnumbered. Entire outposts vanished in seconds. Cities on distant human colonies watched alien warships appear in their skies. Orbital weapons fired. Explosions covered the surface. Millions of civilians were suddenly trapped in a war they never expected. Inside the command center, the officers watched the destruction unfold across the screens. One of the younger commanders slammed his hand on the control table. "They didn't even warn us." Another officer spoke quietly. "They never intended to." Admiral Hale remained calm, but his eyes were cold. For years, humanity had feared this moment. They had seen the signs, their growing suspicion in the Galactic Council, the sudden military expansion by alien empires, the strange fleet movements near human borders. Human intelligence had predicted the possibility of war, but even they had hoped the galaxy would not make such a terrible mistake. Yet here it was, war, and not just any war, a betrayal. Admiral Hale slowly turned toward the central control console. "Status of our outer fleets?" An officer answered quickly. "Many are destroyed, sir. Others are retreating toward inner system." Another officer added, "The Alliance fleets are pushing deeper into our territory." Hale nodded slowly. "They believe we are weak." No one disagreed. Across the galaxy, humans were known for diplomacy, cooperation, and peacekeeping missions. Many alien leaders believe humans avoided war. But that belief had always been wrong. Humanity simply understood something very important. War should always be the last option. But if war ever came, humans would not lose. Admiral Hale took a deep breath. Then he spoke one sentence. "Activate Protocol Black Horizon." The command room froze. Several officers looked at him in shock. One commander stepped forward. "Sir, Black Horizon has never been used. That protocol will change everything." Hale looked directly at the star map, showing the burning human colonies. "That change has already started." Another officer asked quietly, "Should we send a final warning to the Galactic Council?" Hale shook his head. They already made their choice. He turned back to the control console. "Begin full activation." Across human space, secret signals began traveling through hidden communication networks. Signals that had not been used for decades. Deep inside forgotten shipyards, inside silent asteroid bases, inside stations hidden within dark nebula clouds, machines began waking up. Lights slowly turned on. Massive doors opened, and something ancient began to move. Back in the command room, a final report appeared on the screen. "All Black Horizon estates awakening." Admiral Hale quietly watched the message. Then he said something that no alien leader in the galaxy could hear. "For 150 years, we protected them." The giant holographic map slowly zoomed out, showing the entire galaxy. "Now they will learn why." Deep in the silent darkness of space, far beyond the busy trade routes, something began to move. For decades, these places had looked empty. Old asteroid fields, abandoned stations, dead shipyards drifting near forgotten stars. To the rest of the galaxy, they were useless ruins. But they were not ruins. They were sleeping. When the Black Horizon signal reached them, lights slowly came alive. Inside a massive asteroid base hidden within a thick nebula cloud, giant metal doors began to open. Dust that had gathered for many years floated into space. Slowly, a shape appeared inside the darkness. A warship, but not like any ship the galaxy had ever seen. It was enormous. Longer than most alien capital ships, its surface was dark and smooth, almost absorbing the light around it. Strange energy lines glowed faintly along its hull. One by one, its engines began to power up. Blue light filled the silent dock. Then the ship moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just slowly gliding out into open space. It was the first of the Black Fleet, and it would not be the last. Across human space, the same thing was happening. Inside hidden shipyards near frozen planets, more ancient warships awakened. Inside massive underground hangars built into hollow moons, entire fleets powered up. These ships had been built long ago, long before the current generation of humans had been born. They were created during the early years of human expansion, during a time when humanity first discovered what waited beyond the edges of the galaxy. Back then, human explorers had found something terrifying, something powerful enough to destroy entire civilizations. That discovery had forced humanity to prepare. They had built weapons strong enough to face those threats, ships stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But humanity had never used them, because they had hoped the galaxy would never need them. Now that hope was gone. Inside Earth Defense Command, Admiral Hale watched as new signals appeared across the star map. Hundreds of hidden shipyards were activating. Thousands of old defense systems were coming online. And slowly, very slowly, the Black Fleet was waking up. An officer stared at the screen in disbelief. "I didn't know we had this many ships," Hale answered quietly. "Most people didn't." Another officer asked carefully, "Sir, are we really deploying all of them?" Hale looked at the burning colonies still flashing red on the map. "Yes." He paused for a moment. "They started a war they don't understand." Far away from Earth, the alien Alliance fleet continued its invasion. At first, everything was going according to their plan. Human defense stations were falling. Several colonies had already surrendered. Alliance commanders believed victory would come quickly. Inside the flagship of the Alliance fleet, Grand Commander Terrell watched the battle reports. A tall alien with silver skin and glowing yellow eyes. Terrell was known as one of the best fleet commanders in the galaxy. He studied the tactical map carefully. Human fleets were retreating. Outer systems were collapsing. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. Terrell slowly leaned forward. "Where are the main human fleets?" A junior officer answered quickly. "Our scouts report very little resistance, Commander." Another officer added, "Most human ships appear to be withdrawing deeper into their territory." Terrell frowned. Humans were known for strong defenses. He expected heavy resistance at the border. Instead, the humans seemed to be falling back, almost like they were waiting for something. Before he could speak again, a sensor officer suddenly stood up. "Commander, we have a strange reading." Terrell looked at him. "What kind of reading?" The officer looked confused. "I'm detecting large energy signatures." "Where?" The officer zoomed the map outward. Then more signals appeared, and more, and more. Dozens of new signals appeared near human space. Then hundreds, then thousands. The room became silent. Terrell slowly stood up. "Identify those ships." The officer worked quickly at the console. His voice grew nervous. "Commander, those are human ships." Terrell stared at the growing fleet signals. "But they don't match any human designs." Another officer whispered quietly, "Commander, they are massive." The map zoomed closer. The new fleet signals began moving, not away, not retreating. They were moving directly toward the Alliance fleets. Calm, organized, silent. Inside Earth Defense Command, Admiral Hale watched the same map. The Black Fleet was finally awake. For 150 years, humanity had protected the galaxy from its worst dangers. But now, the galaxy had chosen war. Hale folded his hands behind his back. Then, he gave the final order. "Send the Black Fleet forward." Across The silent stars, thousands of ancient human warships began their journey, and the galaxy was about to discover the truth humanity had hidden for a century and a half. Far from Earth, in the bright Tauros star system, the Alien Alliance fleet continued its advance. Thousands of warships filled the space around the yellow star. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, and heavy destroyers moved in perfect formation. For many alien commanders, the war already felt like a victory. Several human colonies had fallen. Outer defense stations had been destroyed. Human fleets seemed to be retreating deeper into their territory. Inside the massive command bridge of the Alliance flagship, Grand Commander Tyrrell studied the battlefield map. Red symbols marked human worlds. Blue symbols marked Alliance fleets. Everything looked under control, but something still felt wrong. Tyrrell had commanded fleets for many years. He had fought dozens of wars, and he knew one thing. When an enemy retreats too easily, it is usually a trap. He turned to the sensor officer. "Any new readings?" The officer shook his head. "Nothing unusual, Commander." Another officer added calmly, "Human fleets remain scattered. No large formations detected." Tyrrell crossed his arms. Strange. He expected humanity to defend their territory with everything they had. Instead, the humans had disappeared. Suddenly, the quiet bridge filled with warning alarms. A sensor officer shouted, "Commander!" Massive energy signatures detected. Tyrrell quickly turned toward the main hologram. Location? The officer zoomed out the star map. Dozens of unknown signals appeared, then hundreds, then thousands. They were coming from the dark region between star systems. Tyrrell's eyes narrowed. "Identify those ships." The sensor officer worked quickly. Seconds passed. Then his voice became uncertain. "Commander, they are human." The bridge grew silent. Tyrrell leaned closer to the display. "That's impossible. Human fleets are already retreating." The officer shook his head slowly. "These ships do not match any human fleet designs in our records." Another officer whispered, "They are enormous." The map zoomed closer. The unknown ships were massive. Long black holes moved through space like silent shadows. Their engines produced very little light. Their power signatures were stronger than any alien battleship, and they were moving together. Perfect formation. Thousands of them. The Black Fleet had arrived. Back inside Earth Defense Command, Admiral Hale watched the same map. The Talro system had become the first battlefield. A young officer spoke nervously. "Sir, the Alliance fleet has over 10,000 warships." Another officer added quietly, "We have only 300 Black Fleet ships entering the system." Some of the officers in the room looked worried. 300 against 10,000. Even the Black Fleet might struggle against that many ships. But Admiral Hale did not look worried. He simply nodded. "Open a channel to the Black Fleet commander." Moments later, the calm voice of Fleet Admiral Elena Torres appeared through the communication system. "Black Fleet ready, Earth Command." Hale spoke calmly. "You may proceed." In the Talros system, the Alien Alliance fleet began forming battle positions. Thousands of weapons powered up. Energy cannons glowed across the massive fleet. Grand Commander Tyrrell watched the incoming human ships carefully. "Only 300, he said quietly. One of his officers laughed. "Commander, that fleet is too small to threaten us." Another officer agreed. "We outnumber them more than 30 to 1. Tyrrell remained silent. The human ships continued moving forward. Calm, steady, not rushing, not retreating, almost as if they were not afraid at all. Finally, the two fleets stopped within battle range. For a moment, space became completely quiet. Then, the first human weapon fired. A thin beam of bright white energy crossed the darkness instantly. It struck an alien battleship near the center of the Alliance fleet. The result shocked everyone. The battleship did not explode. It simply vanished, gone, as if it had never existed. The Alliance bridge became silent. Then dozens more human weapons fired. White beams flashed across the battlefield. Alien cruisers disappeared. Destroyers vanished. Entire squadrons of ships simply erased from space. No explosions, no debris, just empty space where ships once existed. Panic spread through the Alliance fleet. "Return fire," Tyrrell shouted. Thousands of alien weapons fired at once. Missiles, plasma cannons, heavy particle beams. The attacks rushed toward the human fleet, but something strange happened. The human ships moved, not fast, not chaotic. They simply shifted slightly. The alien attacks missed almost every target. The few weapons that struck human ships barely damaged their shields. Then the Black Fleet fired again. More alien ships vanished instantly. Hundreds, then thousands. The battle was becoming a massacre. Inside the Alliance flagship, fear spread across the bridge. One officer whispered in disbelief, This is impossible." Grand Commander Terral stared at the disappearing fleet signal. For the first time since the war began, he understood the truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply chosen not to show their true power. And now that power had been unleashed. Across the Talaros system, the Alliance fleet began to collapse. Ships tried to retreat. Others attempted desperate attacks. But it did not matter. The Black Fleet continued moving forward, silent, unstoppable, and the galaxy was finally learning a terrible lesson. Humanity had protected them for 150 years. Now the protection was gone, and the war had only just begun. The battle in the Talros system did not last long. At first, the Alien Alliance commanders believed they could still win. They had more ships, more crews, and more weapons. But numbers meant nothing against the Black Fleet. Across the battlefield, human warships moved slowly and calmly. They did not rush forward like normal fleets. They did not scatter in chaos. They moved like hunters. Every shot they fired erased another alien ship. Every few seconds, another cruiser vanished. Another battleship disappeared. Another squadron of fighters simply ceased to exist. Inside the alien flagship, the command bridge was filled with fear. Grand Commander Terral stared at the battle map in disbelief. Red signals representing Alliance ships were disappearing faster than the system could update. Thousands of ships were gone, and the humans had barely moved. An officer shouted from the sensor station, "Commander, fleet losses are approaching 40%. Another officer yelled moments later, 50% losses. The bridge filled with alarms. Warning lights flashed across every screen. Terral clenched his fists. This was not a battle anymore. It was destruction. "Order the fleet to retreat," he commanded. The order was transmitted across the entire Alliance fleet, but retreat was no longer simple. The Black Fleet had already spread across the system. Human warships had quietly surrounded large sections of the alien formation. When the Alliance ships turned to escape, they found human ships waiting for them. More white beams flashed through space. Entire groups of ships vanished instantly. One frightened officer whispered, "They predicted our escape routes." Another officer said quietly, "No, they controlled them." Inside Earth's Defense Command, the officers watched the battle through live tactical data. The Tauros system map glowed across the massive holographic display. Alien fleet signals continued disappearing. Human losses remained extremely low. One young officer spoke carefully. "Sir, the Alliance fleet is collapsing." Admiral Hale nodded slowly. This was inevitable. Another officer looked at the numbers with wide eyes. 10,000 alien ships against 300 Black Fleet vessels, and we are winning this easily. Hale folded his hands behind his back. These ships were not built for normal wars. He paused for a moment. They were built for something far worse. Back in the Tauros system, the Alien Alliance fleet was breaking apart. Ships scattered in all directions. Some commanders attempted to regroup. Others panicked and fled toward nearby jump points. But human ships moved faster. Gravity fields suddenly appeared around several escape routes. Space itself seemed to bend. Alien ships trying to enter jump space found themselves trapped. Some were crushed by powerful gravitational forces. Others were simply pulled back into open space. The Black Fleet continued firing. Another 1,000 alien ships vanished. Grand Commander Terral watched the destruction with horror. His once powerful fleet was gone. What remained were scattered survivors trying desperately to escape. He slowly lowered himself into his command chair. For the first time in his long military career, he understood something terrible. They had never been fighting humans. They had been fighting humanity's restraint, and that restraint was now gone. A communications officer suddenly spoke. "Commander, incoming transmission." Terral looked up slowly. "From where?" The officer hesitated. "Human Fleet Command." The bridge fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Finally, Terral nodded. "Open the channel." A calm human face appeared on the holographic screen. Fleet Admiral Elena Torres. Her expression was quiet and controlled. Behind her, the dark shapes of Black Fleet warships drifted silently through space. She spoke in a steady voice. Alliance Fleet Commander, this is Fleet Admiral Torres of the human Black Fleet. Terral forced himself to stand. You have already destroyed most of our fleet, he said bitterly. What more do you want? Torres looked at him calmly. For 150 years, she said, humanity protected this galaxy. Her voice remained steady. We fought threats no one else could see. We stopped dangers no one else understood. Terral said nothing. Torres continued, and this is how the galaxy repaid us. Her eyes hardened slightly. With betrayal, the alien commander slowly lowered his head. Torres spoke one final time. The war you started will now end. She gave a quiet order to her fleet. The final human weapons fired. Across the Talros system, the last Alliance ships disappeared. Within minutes, the battlefield became silent. Thousands of destroyed fleets were gone. Only the Black Fleet remained, watching, waiting, and far across the galaxy, the news of the Talros disaster was beginning to spread. Alien empires that once supported the war were now terrified because they had finally learned the truth. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been patient. And now that patience was over, news of the battle in the Talros system spread across the galaxy like a shockwave. At first, many alien governments refused to believe the reports. The Alliance fleet had been the largest military force ever gathered. 10,000 warships from dozens of powerful civilizations. It was supposed to crush humanity in weeks. But the battle reports told a very different story. The entire fleet was gone, not damaged, not defeated. Gone. Across hundreds of star systems, military leaders stared at their tactical screens in disbelief. The Black Fleet had destroyed the Alliance Armada in less than an hour. Even worse, human losses were almost zero. In the Great Chamber of the Galactic Council, panic was beginning to spread. The Council Hall had once been a place of confidence and pride. Powerful alien species sat together and decided the fate of entire star systems. Now the room was filled with nervous whispers. Holographic screens in the center of the chamber displayed the Talros battle recordings. White beams of energy, ships disappearing, entire fleets erased like dust. One council leader spoke in a shaking voice. This cannot be correct. Our fleets are the strongest in the galaxy. Another leader replied quietly. They were. The council chamber became silent. One of the elder representatives slowly stood up. His species had been one of the strongest supporters of the war against humanity, but now his voice carried fear. We believed humans were weak. We believed their fleets were small. We believed they depended on diplomacy. He pointed toward the battle recordings. We were wrong. Across the room, several leaders began arguing loudly. Some demanded that new fleets be built. Others suggested using planet-killing weapons. But many of the older leaders understood something important. War against humanity could no longer be won, because what they had seen in Talros was only a small part of human power. Suddenly a new message appeared on the council's main screen. Emergency report. Milsipilsif Times. The room grew quiet again. A council officer read the report aloud. Human Black Fleet formations have appeared in 12 additional star systems. The map expanded. Red symbols appeared across the galaxy. But these were not alien ships. They were human fleets. Hundreds of Black Fleet warships moving toward important Alliance military bases. Another officer added another message. Alliance fleet groups in the Varnus sector have been destroyed. Military shipyards in the Kravos system have been disabled. Alliance defense fleets in the Lorath region have been eliminated. Each report made the council chamber quieter. Human fleets were not invading planets. They were not bombing cities. They were not attacking civilians. They were only targeting military forces. Every fleet that had joined the war against humanity was being removed carefully, efficiently, without warning. Across the galaxy, alien commanders began issuing desperate orders. Many fleets tried to retreat. Some attempted to hide inside protected systems. Others tried to regroup for another attack. But it did not matter. Human ships appeared wherever they were needed. Silent, precise, unstoppable. In system after system, alien war fleets vanished just like they had in Talros. Within days, the balance of power across the galaxy completely changed. The once powerful Alliance fleet was gone. Their strongest warships had been erased. Their shipyards had been destroyed. Their weapons factories had been disabled. Inside Earth Defense Command, Admiral Hale watched the reports arrive one by one. An officer spoke quietly beside him. Sir, most Alliance fleets have been neutralized. Another officer added, remaining fleets are surrendering or retreating. Hale nodded slowly. He had expected this outcome, but he did not celebrate. War was never something humanity enjoyed. A communications officer suddenly approached him. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Hale looked at the officer. They want to negotiate. The room became silent. For the first time since the war began, the Council was asking for peace. Hale thought for a moment. Then he gave a short answer. Open the channel. A holographic image of the Council chamber appeared above the command floor. Dozens of alien leaders stared toward the human command center. Many looked tired. Some looked frightened. One of the senior Council representatives stepped forward. His voice was calm but nervous. Admiral Hale, the Galactic Council wishes to discuss a ceasefire. Hale looked at the gathered leaders. For 150 years, he said quietly, humanity protected this galaxy. Humanity protected this galaxy. None of the council members spoke. Hale continued, we fought threats no one else even knew about. We defended borders you never saw. We kept the peace. The council representatives lowered their heads. Hale's voice remained steady. And this is how the galaxy repaid us. No one argued. No one protested. Because they knew it was true. The council leader finally spoke again. This war was a mistake. Hale looked at him carefully. Yes, he said, it was. Then the human admiral added one final sentence. But it was your mistake. Across the galaxy, the Black Fleet continued moving, and everyone now understood one terrifying truth. Humanity had not even used its full power yet. The message from the Galactic Council ended, but the war was not truly over yet. Across the galaxy, fear had replaced confidence. Just weeks earlier, alien empires had believed humanity was weak. They believed humans relied on diplomacy and peace treaties. Now those same empires were watching their fleets disappear. One by one, their military forces had been erased by the Black Fleet. But something strange had also become clear. Humanity was not attacking cities. They were not destroying planets. They were not harming civilians. Human fleets were only targeting warships, shipyards, and military bases. It was as if the humans were not seeking revenge. They were simply removing the galaxy's ability to fight. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the alien leaders watched new reports arrive every hour. Another fleet gone, another weapons factory disabled, another military base captured. Soon, there would be nothing left to defend them. The council leader spoke again. We must send another message to Earth. Many representatives agreed quickly. There was no other option left. Within minutes, a new transmission was sent across human space. Back on Earth, Admiral Hale stood in the quiet command room. The holographic map of the galaxy still floated above the floor. Red symbols showing alien fleets had almost completely vanished. The communications officer spoke. Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting direct negotiations. Hale looked at the map for a long moment. Then he nodded. Open the channel. Once again, the image of the council chamber appeared. But this time, the leaders looked very different. They were no longer proud. They were no longer confident. Now they looked tired and afraid. The council leader stepped forward slowly. Admiral Hale, the galaxy asks for peace. Hale said nothing. The alien continued. This war was based on fear. We believed humanity was becoming a threat. He lowered his head. We now understand we were wrong. Silence filled the command room. Finally, Hale spoke. For 150 years, humanity protected the galaxy. The council representatives listened carefully. We defended your borders. We stopped threats you never even saw. We gave the galaxy peace. Hale's voice remained calm. And when the galaxy grew afraid of our strength, you tried to destroy us. No one on the council argued, because it was true. The alien leader finally spoke again. We cannot undo what has happened, but we ask humanity to stop the war. Hale looked at the holographic image of the council. Then he gave a quiet answer. The war is already over. The council members looked confused. Hale gestured toward the star map. Every major alien war fleet had been removed. Every major weapons factory had been disabled. The galaxy no longer had the ability to start another large war. Humanity had already won. But Hale continued speaking. You believed humans were preparing to rule the galaxy. He shook his head slightly. You never understood why we built those fleets. Several council members looked curious. One finally asked, Then why did you build them? For the first time, Hale's expression became serious. Because of what lies beyond the galaxy. The council chamber became silent. Hale continued. Long ago, our explorers reached the outer edge of known space. They discovered something terrible, an ancient force moving between galaxies, something that destroys civilizations. The alien leaders stared at him in shock. Hale spoke slowly. For 150 years, humanity has been preparing for that threat. The Black Fleet was never meant for you. It was meant for them, the council leader whispered. And now? Hale looked toward the stars displayed on the map. Now humanity must prepare again. He turned back to the council. But first, the galaxy must learn something important. The alien leaders waited. Hale spoke one final sentence. Humanity does not rule the galaxy. We protect it. Then, the transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations slowly began to understand the truth. Humanity had never wanted power. They had never wanted control. They had only wanted peace. But now, everyone also understood something else. If humanity ever had to fight again, it would not be for revenge. It would be to protect the entire galaxy, just as they had done for the last 150 years.